The human ship descended quietly through the thin, gray clouds of the planet. From orbit, the world had seemed dead. No signs of cities, no lights, no activity. Just a barren landscape of rocky plains and jagged mountains stretching far beyond sight. Alien observers in orbit watched closely, their multi-limbed forms tense on the bridge of their ships. They had heard legends of humans, small, fragile creatures who thrived on planets far from their own. They were clever, yes, but no human had ever shown such presence. The human ship touched the ground with a soft hum. Landing pads sank slightly into the rocky soil, but the planet did not resist. The human opened the hatch. He stepped out. Immediately the air seemed different around him, not harsh, not poisonous, just alive. The dust stirred gently at his feet, and small pebbles rolled aside, as if they recognized his weight. The alien observers blinked in disbelief. No human had ever affected a planet like this. He looked around, his eyes sharp and curious. His name was Kale, though the aliens did not know it yet. He had traveled many light years, following a map left behind in human records, maps older than most civilizations in the galaxy. He had come to this barren world because he felt it calling him. The air vibrated subtly, carrying a faint hum that only he seemed to notice. He bent down and touched the ground with his hand. The moment his fingers grazed the soil, a faint green shimmer appeared at the contact point. Tiny shoots of plants, long dormant, began to emerge from cracks in the rocks. Kale straightened, astonished, but not afraid. He could feel the world beneath him, as if it were breathing in rhythm with his own pulse. It was not alive in the way humans or animals were alive, but it was awake in a quiet, patient way that made him feel at home. Above, the aliens whispered in their strange clicks and tones. "Impossible," one said. "Humans cannot affect planets. Their presence is too weak, too insignificant." Another shook its head. Yet here, the world responds to him. God. Kale walked slowly across the barren plain. Each step seemed to awaken something dormant. Rocks shifted slightly, dust stirred, and small plants sprouted in his path. The alien observers adjusted their instruments, recording every change. Their sensors detected energy pulses emanating from Kale's body, waves that matched the vibrations of the planet itself. They had studied planetary energy for centuries, but nothing like this had ever appeared. Kale reached a shallow valley surrounded by jagged cliffs. In the center, a small pond reflected the dull gray sky. He knelt and dipped his hand into the water. Ripples formed, but they were unusual, glowing faintly with a soft light. Tiny aquatic creatures, almost invisible, stirred to life, swimming in circles around his hand. Kale smiled quietly. He had known humans had a connection to life, but this was something beyond even his imagination. The planet seemed to respond to his thoughts as well as his touch. When he wished for shade, a cluster of small trees sprouted near the pond. When he imagined a soft breeze, the air moved, stirring the surface of the water and rustling the young plants. Kale realized that this planet was not empty. It was waiting, listening, and ready to respond. The realization sent a thrill through him. He had come to explore, but now he understood he was part of the world itself. Above him, the alien observers were tense. Some were fascinated, others frightened. They had dealt with humans before, on faraway planets, but never like this. The planet, it recognizes him, one said in a whisper that almost sounded like fear. Another added, not just the planet. The galaxy should recognize him if this continues. Kale continued walking. He noticed ancient stones half buried in the earth, arranged in patterns he could not immediately understand. As he stepped closer, a faint glow pulsed from the ground. The stones seemed to vibrate in harmony with the energy he felt in the planet. He crouched and ran his fingers over the carvings. Images appeared, maps, star charts, and symbols he did not fully comprehend, but he sensed their meaning. This world had been important once, home to a civilization that had vanished long ago, and now, somehow, it had waited for him. The wind picked up slightly, carrying whispers that sounded almost like voices. Kale closed his eyes and focused. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, The voices formed patterns he could understand. Not words exactly, but emotions and intentions. The planet was communicating with him. It was welcoming him, guiding him toward its center, toward a place of importance. He felt a sense of destiny. He had not chosen this planet. It had chosen him. Suddenly, a low rumble echoed from beneath the ground. Kale stepped back instinctively. Rocks shifted and dust rose like smoke, but the planet did not attack. It simply announced its presence. The valley trembled slightly, and then stillness returned. Kale smiled again. This was not fear, it was acknowledgement. The planet recognized him as someone who could understand it. The aliens in orbit continued to watch, increasingly unsettled. They were scientists, diplomats, and warriors all at once. Some argued that Kale should be captured, studied, or even eliminated. Others warned against action. The energy the human emitted was beyond their control, beyond their understanding. One observer, a young analyst, whispered, "He does not just walk on the ground, he awakens it." Kale followed the pull of the planet's energy toward a ridge overlooking a massive crater. From the edge, he could see more of the planet's surface. Jagged mountains, empty plains, and scattered ruins. But everything looked subtly different. Areas that had been barren now had hints of green. Small creatures, birds, insects, even tiny quadrupeds scurried through the newly awakened vegetation. The planet was responding to him across great distances. He sat at the edge of the ridge and looked out at the world. He felt the pulse of the planet, steady and strong beneath him. He realized that wherever he went, the planet would continue to respond to his presence. If he stayed, it would flourish. If he left, it would wait, but it would not forget him. Kale's mind wandered briefly to humanity, to Earth, and to the countless humans scattered across the stars. If one human could awaken a planet, what could all of humanity achieve together? The thought gave him hope, but also a quiet determination. Above, the alien observers made notes, their conversations urgent and tense. "It is more than physical presence," one said. "It is not just the human, it is the resonance and energy we cannot control," another added. "We must be careful. If word spreads, the galaxy will see humans differently." Kale rose from the ridge. The path ahead was unclear, but he felt no fear. The planet had recognized him, and he had recognized it. That connection was enough. The ruins, the stones, the glowing energy, they were all part of a story waiting to be told. And Kale was ready to play his part. As night fell, the gray sky shimmered faintly with auroras of color that seemed impossible on a dead world. The alien observers watched in awe as Kale built a simple campfire. The flames flickered in harmony, with the planet's pulse, and even the fire seemed to lean toward him. He sat quietly, feeling the planet's presence, the rhythm of its heartbeat beneath him. For the first time in centuries, the barren world felt alive, and somewhere in the galaxy, far from this remote planet, whispers began to spread. A human had landed. The planet recognized him. The galaxy would have to notice as well. Kale awoke before dawn. The air was cool, and a faint mist hovered over the valley. The fire from the previous night had died, but the glow of the rising sun reflected off newly sprouted leaves and tiny pools of water that had formed overnight. He rose quietly, careful not to disturb the delicate balance around him. The planet seemed to stir with him, as if it were aware of every movement he made. He walked toward a rocky plateau not far from the valley. Every step caused small changes. Flowers pushed through cracks in the stones. Moss spread across boulders, and tiny animals cautiously emerged from hidden burrows. Kale realized he was no longer just walking on the surface. He was interacting with life itself. The planet's energy resonated with him. It seemed to trust him, to want him here. High above, the alien observers were tense. Their instruments showed rising levels of energy from the planet's surface. "It is spreading," one said. "The human is affecting not just the local area. The planet itself is awakening." Another observer adjusted their sensor arrays. "This is beyond any biological reaction. The human is like a key. This world has waited for him." Kale reached the plateau's edge and looked down at the valley. The changes were subtle but undeniable. Trees had grown taller overnight, their leaves shimmering with a faint light. Streams had formed from springs long thought dry. Even the air smelled fresher, cleaner, carrying the faint scent of new growth. Kale knelt and placed his hand on the soil. A warm, soft vibration traveled through his fingers, into his arm, and into his chest. The planet's pulse was steady, strong, and alive. He closed his eyes and focused. Slowly, he imagined small bridges of stone forming across the streams. Immediately, thin arcs of rock lifted from the ground, curving gracefully into place. Kale smiled. The planet was not only responding to his touch, it could interpret his thoughts. He was learning to communicate with it without words. And it was learning to respond. Suddenly, the plateau trembled beneath him. Kale steadied himself. Rocks shifted, forming natural stairways and pathways that had not been there before. From the valley below, a faint glow emerged. Tiny creatures, long hidden underground, began to climb toward the light. Small, bird-like animals flew over the streams, calling softly, their songs harmonizing with the planet's energy. Kale watched in awe. This was not random growth. It was an orchestrated awakening, as if the planet itself were learning to move, to act, and to live again. The alien observers in orbit communicated urgently. The energy signature is increasing exponentially. It is not just biological, it is planetary consciousness, one said. Another replied, "We must warn the Council. If word spreads, the galaxy will rethink the humans entirely." Yet another observer hesitated. Do we stop him, or do we watch? The planet seems peaceful, yet powerful. Kale stood and began walking again, deeper into the valley. The ruins he had seen the day before glowed faintly, lines of energy tracing the shapes of walls and ancient buildings. He ran his fingers over the stones, feeling the echo of the civilization that had once thrived here. The planet responded, lifting dust and small rocks in gentle waves, almost as if it were showing him its memories. Kale realized that this place had been waiting for someone like him, someone who could awaken it fully. He reached a shallow crater at the valley's center. From its edges, green shoots and saplings were already pushing upward, forming a circle of life in a place that had once been dead. Kale knelt and placed both hands on the soil. The ground pulsed beneath him, warm and soft. A faint hum filled the air. It was not sound as humans knew it, but vibration, energy, and understanding. The planet was speaking. Kale closed his eyes and listened. Images flashed in his mind, vast forests, rivers cutting through mountains, animals and plants moving in harmony. He saw the rise and fall of the ancient civilization, its cities glowing in the light of unknown stars. The planet had been alive then, and it had waited, patient and silent, for a hand to awaken it again. Kale realized the responsibility he carried. This was not just exploration, it was stewardship. Suddenly, the air shifted. Kale opened his eyes and saw small waves of light moving across the valley floor, shaping themselves into patterns. Tiny, glowing creatures emerged from the soil, moving in careful formations. They were not dangerous. They seemed curious, almost playful, responding to Kale's presence. He reached out slowly, and one of the creatures approached his hand. When he touched it, it glowed brighter, then darted back into the ground. Kale laughed quietly, feeling the joy of discovery above. The alien observers were growing anxious. "He does not merely walk," one said. "He commands. The planet bends to him naturally. And it is not fighting. It is obeying willingly." Another shook its head. "If this continues, humans will no longer be seen as weak. The entire galaxy will have to reconsider." Kale continued exploring. Everywhere he went, the planet responded. Rocks shifted to form stepping paths over streams. Trees bent to provide shade. Birds and small animals appeared, moving as if they had been waiting for him. Even the air itself seemed to hum with energy, carrying a subtle warmth that followed him wherever he went. He had expected loneliness on this barren world, but instead, he felt companionship. As if the planet itself were a living being eager to communicate, he reached the ruins of a larger structure, its walls broken and half buried. As he placed his hands on the stones, the ruins pulsed with faint light. Energy flowed through his fingers into the planet, and the walls slowly lifted from the ground. reconstructing themselves into shapes he could not fully understand. Kale realized the planet could not only respond, it could create, and it was creating for him. Night fell over the valley. The alien observers recorded every change, their voices tense. "We cannot predict this," one said. "The human's presence is reshaping the planet. What will happen when the galaxy knows?" Another replied quietly, "He is not just a human. He is a force of life." Kale sat on a stone ledge overlooking the valley. The glow from the newly awakened plants and creatures lit the night like soft fireflies. Streams reflected the moonlight, and distant waterfalls glimmered with faint energy. He touched the ground and felt the pulse of life. The planet was alive, and it recognized him as part of it. Kale realized that wherever he went, he would leave change behind. He was no longer a visitor. He was a catalyst. The hum of energy grew stronger as he meditated. Thoughts flowed between him and the planet. He understood the risks. Other beings might want to control this power or fear it. Yet the connection was undeniable. The planet had waited for him, and now he could not leave. He felt a deep responsibility to guide its growth, to protect it, and to learn from it. Far above, alien fleets began to stir. Reports came in from nearby systems. Unusual energy readings, rapid growth of flora and fauna, and strange pulses from a previously barren planet. The galaxy began to notice, and whispers spread. A human had landed, and the planet recognized him. The implications were immense. No one could predict what this would mean for the balance of power, for diplomacy, or for the understanding of life itself. Kale rose as the first light of the twin suns touched the valley. The air shimmered, alive with potential. The planet's heartbeat was steady beneath his feet, and he knew that he and this world were linked now. Wherever he went, the planet would awaken. He took a deep breath, feeling the energy flowing into him, guiding him forward. He had come seeking exploration, but he had found purpose. The day ahead promised more discoveries, more awakening, and more understanding. Kale smiled as he walked forward. The planet was alive, and together they would reveal its secrets. Somewhere in the galaxy, distant eyes were watching, and Kale knew the story was only beginning. For the first time, the barren world felt truly alive, and Kale, the human, was at its center. Kale woke to a sky painted with golden light. The twin suns rose slowly, warming the valley and the newly awakened life below. Streams reflected the light, flowing over smooth stones, and the gentle rustle of leaves filled the air. Every plant, every creature seemed alert and active. Kale stretched his arms and smiled. The planet was thriving under his presence. But today, he sensed something different, something beyond the gentle pulse beneath his feet. High above, in orbit, alien scouts were arriving. Ships of different shapes and sizes, some sleek, some massive, appeared in the sky around the planet. The first signals reached Kale, not as sound, but as subtle vibrations in the ground. He knelt and touched the soil, feeling the disturbance ripple through him. The planet trembled slightly, but not in fear. It was alert. It was aware of the approaching vessels. The alien observers in orbit whispered urgently among themselves. "It is the human again," one said. "Our sensors cannot explain the energy fluctuations." "The planet is protecting him," another replied. "He is not alone. The planet seems to respond to him, as if it knows him." Across the galaxy, intelligence reports were beginning to record the anomaly. A human affecting planetary life on a massive scale. Kale decided to descend into a canyon nearby. The canyon walls were jagged, lined with ancient markings that glowed faintly in the morning light. As he walked, the rocks beneath his feet shifted and lifted, forming safe paths where before there had been none. Small creatures, some winged, some creeping, emerged from hidden nests, moving around him without fear. The canyon seemed alive, stretching and shifting to accommodate him, guiding his path. From orbit, alien sensors detected it all. They saw energy pulses spreading from Kale's location, reaching deep into the planet's crust and outward into the atmosphere. "He is connected," one observer said. "Not just to the surface, but to the planet's core. He resonates with it. It recognizes him." Another frowned, adjusting a display. This is dangerous. If other civilizations learn of this, humans will no longer be considered weak. They will be feared, or sought after. Kale reached a clearing where the ruins of a large structure lay. Once long ago, it had been a city, perhaps the capital of a civilization that spanned stars. Now, it was silent, half buried in dust. But as Kale stepped into the center, the ruins pulsed with energy. Stones lifted, walls reconstructed themselves partially, forming shapes he did not fully understand. The planet was showing him its history, its memory. He knelt and ran his hands over the ground. Images flowed into his mind, bustling cities, fields of crops, rivers teeming with life, and people moving in harmony with the planet. The civilization had been gone for centuries, but the planet had remembered. Kale rose, feeling a surge of understanding. He realized that he was not just awakening the planet physically, he was awakening its memory. Every plant, every stream, every animal responded as if remembering a past life. It was not magic, nor simple biology. It was connection, understanding, and resonance. The planet trusted him because he was human, and humans, for reasons unknown, carried a spark that resonated with life itself. Suddenly, the ground trembled. Kale steadied himself. From the skies above, alien ships began descending toward the surface. They were cautious, maintaining distance, scanning for energy signatures. Kale felt the tremors through the ground. He did not panic. Instead, he raised his hands, and the earth responded. Trees bent slightly, forming barriers. Rocks lifted and shifted, creating obstacles. Streams diverted around paths that might block him. The planet was shielding him. The alien fleets hesitated, their sensors detecting the active energy. The planet itself is reacting, one commander said. We cannot predict its behavior. Our weapons may be useless here, another added. The human is at the center of it. He is different. He commands it naturally. Kale moved calmly through the clearing. The planet guided him around potential dangers and toward a larger, circular depression nearby. Here, the energy was stronger, almost overwhelming. He knelt and pressed his hands into the soil. Vibrations surged through him. Tiny lights danced across the ruins, forming patterns and shapes that seemed to tell a story. Kale understood. The planet was sharing its knowledge, revealing what had happened and what could happen again. Above, the alien observers began transmitting warnings. The human is awakening not just the surface, but the planet's core, one said. If he remains, it will alter the entire ecosystem, perhaps the entire planet. Other species will notice. The galaxy will notice. Another observer shook its head. We cannot interfere. His connection is too strong. Any attempt will backfire. Kale sensed them, not individually, but collectively. Their presence was cautious, hesitant. He could feel their curiosity, their fear, their admiration. The planet responded to them as well, sending subtle pulses through the ground. Vibrations that spoke of caution but not hostility. Kale realized the planet understood that the newcomers were not yet friends, but not yet enemies either. He walked toward the center of the circular depression. Energy pulsed stronger here. Rocks floated slightly above the ground, circling like small moons. Streams of water glowed faintly, reflecting colors he had never seen. Kale placed both hands on the soil and focused. He thought of life, of balance, of the potential of the planet. Slowly, the floating rocks formed shapes, resembling buildings, bridges, and pathways. Water streamed in perfect harmony, and small creatures moved as if rehearsing for a performance. The alien observers were stunned. It is creating, one whispered. Not just responding, but creating, another replied. The human does not command. He inspires. The planet builds for him. Kale felt a connection stronger than anything he had known. The planet was alive, aware, and capable of action. And it had chosen him as its guide, its partner, its witness. He understood that his presence here was more than exploration. It was destiny. The planet had waited, and he had come. As night approached, the twin suns dipped below the horizon. The valley glowed with soft light, streams reflecting stars above. Creatures moved freely, unafraid, their presence a testament to the planet's awakening. Kale sat at the edge of the circular depression and looked up at the alien fleet still hovering above. He did not feel threatened. He felt understood. The planet had recognized him, and through him, the galaxy would begin to notice. A faint hum resonated through the ground, stronger than before. Kale closed his eyes and allowed the energy to flow into him. He felt the pulse of life in every rock, every plant, every drop of water. The planet was alive, conscious, and responding to him. He was no longer alone. Above, the alien observers exchanged worried glances. "We cannot intervene," one admitted. "He is not just a human. He is something else. A catalyst. The galaxy must watch, but not touch." Another nodded. "This is only the beginning. When the others learn, the balance of power may shift. Humans may be more than we ever thought." Kale rose and walked through the glowing valley. He touched plants, stones, and water. Each touch spread life and energy. Small creatures followed him, curious and playful. The planet was not only awakening it was teaching him. It was showing him how to coexist, how to understand, and how to shape life without fear. He reached a small hill overlooking the valley. From this height, he could see the full scope of the awakening. Streams weaving through the land, plants stretching skyward, creatures moving freely. The ruins glowed faintly, revealing patterns in history. The planet was alive, and the galaxy would notice soon enough. Kale felt a mixture of awe and responsibility. This was not his planet alone, nor his power alone. He was part of something greater, a bond between human and world that had waited for centuries. And the galaxy would not ignore it. As night settled fully, the alien fleet slowly retreated to orbit, cautious and unsure. Reports would be sent to other systems, and whispers of this extraordinary human would spread. Kale watched the stars above, feeling both small and infinitely important. The planet beneath him pulsed with life, recognizing him, trusting him, guiding him forward. He sat quietly, letting the energy flow through him. The planet had awakened, and Kale understood the journey ahead would be greater than anything he had imagined. The galaxy would soon see what humans could do, and this planet, once silent and forgotten, would lead the way. The twin suns rose slowly over the awakening valley, casting long shadows across the vibrant landscape. Streams flowed like ribbons of light, and trees swayed gently as if breathing. Kale walked through the lush terrain, feeling the pulse of the planet beneath his feet. Every step he took seemed to inspire growth. Flowers blossomed, moss spread across rocks, and small creatures scuttled around him in playful curiosity. But Kale was not alone. Far above, alien fleets from several systems had gathered. Some were scouts, sent to observe. Others were warships, sent to test or contain him. The galaxy had begun to notice. Reports from distant colonies described energy surges, rapid ecological changes, and strange readings of intelligence beneath the surface. Rumors spread quickly. A human had arrived on a planet, and the planet itself was responding. Kale paused on a ridge, sensing the approach of the fleets. Unlike the scouts in orbit, these ships carried instruments designed to interact with or even control the planet's energy. Kale's hands brushed the soil instinctively. The ground vibrated with a warning. Trees bent slightly, forming natural barricades, while rocks shifted into patterns that would slow any intruders. Streams adjusted their course, creating natural obstacles. The planet itself was preparing to defend him, not aggressively, but strategically from orbit. Alien commanders monitored the energy fluctuations. "It is responding to him," one said, her voice tense. "The planet moves like a living shield. If we advance, it will adapt faster than our technology can predict." Another shook his head. "He's not controlling it. He inspires it. The planet knows him, trusts him. This is not warfare, it is recognition." Kale moved toward a canyon where he had first felt the planet's deeper consciousness. As he entered, the walls shifted subtly, guiding him forward. The floating rocks and glowing streams reacted to his presence, forming a protective corridor. He could sense the alien fleet's hesitation. They were scanning, probing, testing boundaries, but nothing could fully anticipate the bond between human and planet, the first probes entered the canyon. Sleek machines designed to measure energy, gather data, and if necessary, disable it. Kale placed his hands on the soil. The ground pulsed in response. Small plants shot through cracks, wrapping around the probes and lifting them harmlessly into the air. Tiny creatures hovered near the machines, curious but cautious, nudging them gently. The probe's operators in orbit were stunned. "The human does not act," one said. "The planet does." Kale closed his eyes and felt the rhythm of the world. He realized that the planet was not just responding, it was thinking, planning. Paths shifted, barriers rose, and streams redirected themselves to control movement. Rocks formed natural bridges and walls, guiding any approaching threats away from the heart of the valley. Kale understood that the planet's intelligence was immense, ancient, and patient. He was not controlling it. He was part of its plan. The alien fleets debated their next move. Some argued for retreat, unsure of how to challenge a planet that seemed alive and aware. Others urged caution, suggesting diplomatic communication. A few wanted to force a confrontation, believing human fragility would fail to withstand planetary defense. Yet every test met with subtle, elegant resistance. Instruments failed, probes lifted harmlessly, and streams diverted around obstacles. The fleets realized that they were not just observing a human, they were witnessing an entirely new form of interaction between life and consciousness. Kale moved deeper into the valley. He reached the ancient ruins, now fully glowing with faint energy. Here the planet's memory was strongest. The walls shifted, forming shapes and patterns that seemed to tell stories of the civilizations that had lived and thrived here. Kale traced the symbols with his hands. The planet responded, lifting dust and debris, arranging stones into patterns he could understand intuitively. It was teaching him its history, showing him what had been and what could be again. Suddenly, a scout ship descended to the valley floor, its engines cutting through the calm air. Kale felt the vibrations in the ground and placed his hands on the soil. Instantly, the earth beneath the ship shifted, forming a mound that gently lifted it off balance. Rocks rose around the ship, creating a small, soft cage. Streams diverted, cutting off potential landing points. The ship's crew inside monitored their instruments in confusion. "We cannot land safely," one said. "The terrain. It moves against us." Kale smiled faintly. He did not move toward the ship. He did not need to. The planet acted for him, protecting him without violence, without anger. He realized the true power of his connection. It was not control, but harmony. Where he wished life and safety, the planet would respond. Where he felt caution, the planet would shield. He had never imagined that a human could inspire such intelligence in a world above. The alien fleets began to withdraw slowly, still cautious, but recognizing the human's bond with the planet. "We cannot underestimate this," one commander admitted. "He is not just a human. He is a partner to the world itself. Any attempt to interfere will fail." Another nodded. "And yet he does not fight. He simply walks, and the planet acts." "We are witnessing a force we cannot measure." Kale walked through the ruins again, feeling the pulse of the planet beneath his feet. Streams shifted to form new paths. Creatures moved playfully around him, and plants grew in intricate patterns that seemed almost deliberate. He realized that he could teach, but the planet had its own understanding, its own will. He did not need to command. He only needed to exist in harmony, and the world would respond beautifully. By midday, Kale reached a hill overlooking the valley. From this height, he could see the full scale of his awakening. Forests stretched farther than he had imagined. Streams curved gracefully, forming natural irrigation across the valley. Small animals moved freely, and the ruins of the ancient civilization glowed faintly, telling their story in soft light. The alien fleets hovered at a distance, unsure how to proceed. Hesitant to challenge the human or the planet, Kale understood something important. This was more than a test of strength or intelligence. It was a challenge of understanding. The galaxy had assumed humans were weak, fragile, and insignificant. Yet here he stood, walking through a world that recognized him, thriving under his presence and responding to his intent. The truth of humanity's potential was becoming clear, not through weapons, not through conquest, but through connection. The planet pulsed gently beneath him, almost as if in agreement. Kale reached out, touching a small tree that had just grown. Its leaves shimmered in response. Streams of water shifted slightly, reflecting sunlight in dancing patterns. Tiny creatures emerged from hidden burrows, curious but cautious. Kale smiled. This was not a world he could dominate. It was a world he could understand, nurture, and awaken above. Alien fleets began to leave orbit, still observing, but maintaining distance. "We must report this," one commander said. "The human is not alone. The planet recognizes him. And through him, the galaxy will notice." Another agreed. "This is only the beginning. Humans may be underestimated no longer. We must watch carefully." Kale continued walking through the valley, feeling the rhythm of the planet beneath his feet. Every step inspired growth. Every touch spread life. Every thought shaped understanding. He realized that he had not come to conquer. He had come to awaken, and in awakening the planet, he was awakening something far greater, the recognition of humanity itself across the galaxy. As night fell, the valley glowed with bioluminescent life. Streams reflected starlight, trees swayed gently, and tiny creatures played across the terrain. Kale stood at the center of the valley, feeling the pulse of the world beneath him. The planet was alive, aware, and infinitely patient. And the galaxy, far beyond this quiet world, would begin to see humans not as weaklings, but as catalysts for life and growth. Kale sat quietly, letting the planet's energy flow through him. He understood that the challenges ahead would be many, that alien civilizations would attempt to test, control, or study him. But he also understood something stronger. Humans could inspire life, awaken worlds, and change perceptions without violence. The planet had chosen him, and through him, the galaxy would begin to recognize the true potential of humanity. The stars above glittered like scattered gems. Alien ships retreated slowly to orbit, watching, cautious, and unsure. Kale rose and walked through the valley once more, touching plants, stones, and streams. Life flourished under his presence. The planet was awakening fully, and he was at the center of its pulse. The challenge of the stars had begun. Kale understood that the galaxy would soon pay attention. Humans were no longer insignificant observers. Through connection, understanding, and presence, they could awaken life itself. And Kale, a single human on a distant world, was proof of that power. Kale stood at the heart of the valley. The planet beneath him pulsed like a living heartbeat, steady, strong, and vibrant. Streams sparkled, forests stretched farther than the eye could see. Creatures of all kinds moved freely through the land. The ruins of the ancient civilization glowed faintly, now fully restored in spirit, if not in stone. Life had returned to a world long forgotten, and all of it responded to his presence. Above, alien fleets hovered cautiously. They had arrived in numbers, now curious, cautious, some seeking observation, others hoping to test the limits of the human and the planet. But nothing they did could disrupt the harmony Kale shared with the world beneath him. Rocks shifted, streams diverted, and plants rose gently to block paths, always without harm. Every instrument, probe, and attempt to interfere failed. The planet itself had become a living ally, and Kale was its center. Kale raised his hand slightly, and the valley seemed to respond to his thoughts. Small animals appeared, following trails of light that guided them safely through the terrain. Trees bent to form arches, welcoming movement. Streams of water glowed softly as they flowed, reflecting colors he had never seen before. He realized the planet was not just alive, it was communicating, showing him its strength, intelligence, and creativity, and it recognized him as its partner. From orbit, alien observers exchanged uneasy glances. "It is more than energy," one said. "He does not control it. The planet chooses to respond, and it does so willingly," another replied. "We have never seen a human affect a world like this. If word spreads, the galaxy will no longer see them as weak. they will be. A force. Kale walked through the valley, feeling the pulse beneath him. Every step brought life. Flowers grew along his path, streams adjusted to provide water to hidden roots. And creatures appeared from the shadows, playful and curious. The planet was not just defending him, was teaching him, guiding him, helping him understand how to nurture life rather than command it. Suddenly, a larger fleet began to descend, this time warships designed for intimidation. Kale sensed the vibrations through the ground. He did not panic. He placed his hands on the soil, and the planet reacted instantly. Trees rose to block pathways. Rocks shifted to create gentle barriers. Streams diverted, forming natural moats that made landing difficult. Tiny creatures swarmed near the ships, curious but harmless, and the valley seemed to glow brighter. Reflecting the energy that Kale and the planet shared, the alien commanders were amazed. It adapts to every approach, one said. Weapons are useless. Probes are stopped. Instruments fail. The human does not act directly, yet the planet responds perfectly. Another added, this is not just defense, it is intelligence. The world itself recognizes him, and through him, it recognizes humanity. Kale walked calmly into the center of the valley. He closed his eyes, focusing on the planet's pulse. Slowly, he imagined a world fully awakened, thriving with life, peaceful yet strong. The ground responded immediately. Trees spread outward, streams flowed in perfect harmony, and the ruins of the ancient civilization glowed brighter, revealing patterns and knowledge long forgotten. Creatures moved gracefully, guided by the energy around them. From orbit, the alien fleets paused. They realized that the human had not merely awakened a planet, he had inspired it to reveal its full potential. It is not aggression, one commander admitted. He does not attack. He awakens. He teaches, and the world follows him willingly. Another nodded. This changes everything. The galaxy has underestimated humans for centuries. But now we see. Their impact can be extraordinary. Kale opened his eyes and looked at the valley. He felt a deep sense of connection, not just with the planet, but with life itself. Every creature, every plant, every stream was part of a single living system, and he was part of it too. He realized that the bond he shared with the planet was unique. But it also reflected something greater. Humans could awaken potential in ways others could not. They could inspire, nurture, and create life in forms the galaxy had never seen. He stepped forward, and the planet responded with a gentle pulse. A low hum filled the air, subtle but pervasive. The aliens in orbit could sense it, two waves of energy, harmony, and life that could not be weaponized, could not be contained. The galaxy was witnessing something profound, the recognition of a human not just as a being, but as a catalyst for life. Kale raised both hands above his head, and the valley seemed to shimmer. Streams flowed into perfect patterns. Creatures gathered without fear, and the ancient ruins glowed as if remembering their creators. The planet had fully awakened, and it had done so through him. He felt pride, yes, but also humility. This was not power to dominate. It was power to nurture and inspire. The alien fleets began to retreat slowly, sending messages back to their systems. Word would spread quickly. A human had arrived on a distant planet, and the planet itself recognized him. Energy readings, ecological changes, and patterns of life had been observed. The galaxy would take notice. Humans could not be dismissed as weak, as fragile, as insignificant. They were forces of creation. Kale walked through the valley, touching plants and stones, moving streams with subtle gestures, and guiding creatures with gentle thoughts. The planet's pulse matched his own heartbeat. It was not just recognition, it was partnership. Kale had awakened a world, yes, but he had also awakened understanding, connection, and respect. Night fell over the valley. The twin moons rose, casting silvery light over the streams and forests. The valley glowed softly with bioluminescent life. Kale stood quietly, feeling the pulse beneath him. He thought of Earth, of humanity, and of the galaxy watching silently from afar. For centuries, humans had been underestimated. For centuries they had been dismissed. But here on this distant world, a single human had shown the truth. They could awaken life, inspire worlds, and change the galaxy's perspective, not with weapons, but with presence and understanding from orbit. The alien fleets transmitted their final reports before retreating. "The human has bonded with the planet fully," one commander said. "We cannot intervene. We cannot measure the impact. The galaxy will notice, and we must acknowledge it," another observer added. "The humans are not weak. They are catalysts. This changes everything." Kale walked to the center of the valley, placing his hands on the soil one last time for the day. Streams of water reflected the twin moons. Plants glowed softly, and creatures moved in gentle harmony. The ruins of the ancient civilization pulsed with faint energy, sharing knowledge, history, and memory. Kale understood that he had awakened not just life, but understanding. He had connected with the planet fully, and through him, the galaxy would begin to see humans differently. The next morning, Kale rose with the sun. The valley was alive, vibrant, and thriving. Streams sparkled, forests stretched endlessly, and animals moved freely. Above, alien fleets observed silently, respecting the bond they could not challenge. The planet pulsed gently beneath Kale's feet, a rhythm of life and intelligence that mirrored his own heartbeat. He had awakened a world, and the galaxy was watching. Kale took a deep breath, feeling the energy flow through him. He knew that his journey had only just begun. The planet had recognized him, and through him, the galaxy would recognize humanity. The challenge of the stars had been met not with force, but with harmony, understanding, and life itself. He smiled, knowing that the story of this world and the story of humans would now be told across the galaxy. The barren planet was no longer silent. Life thrived, energy pulsed, and the universe had taken notice. Kale, a single human, had shown the galaxy the potential of his species, the power to awaken, inspire, and create. As Kale looked over the thriving valley, he felt a sense of peace and purpose. The planet's pulse beneath him was steady, strong, and alive. He understood now that recognition was not granted through conquest, wealth, or strength alone. Recognition came through connection, understanding, the willingness to nurture life. Somewhere in distant systems, alien observers would whisper this truth: a human had arrived. The planet had recognized him. And so, the galaxy would recognize humanity. Kale knelt and touched the soil one last time that evening, feeling its warmth and rhythm. The valley glowed softly around him, streams reflected the stars, and creatures moved peacefully in the night. The planet had awakened fully, and the human who had walked upon it would be remembered not just by this world, but by the galaxy itself. For the first time in centuries, a barren planet was alive. And through a single human, the galaxy had learned that humans were not weak. They were a force of creation,